Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters. I just wanted to remind you the last time we talked about how the youth, what their situation was, why they flee, and then how they got into the Kahf, and they were remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua to him, asking him to guide. And Allah is basically explaining their situation. Now we're going into the detail of what has happened to them. What happened to them actually? I screen share here so you can see. Let Sheikh Hosari recite for us.
The youth said to one another, "And when you have withdrawn from them and that which they worship other than Allah, retreat to the cave. Your Lord will spread out for you of His mercy and will prepare for you from your affair facility."
This is another very, very valuable lesson for us. That means the believers, it really is important that the believers constantly encourage each other and give each other hope. Remind each other of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are young people. They could be 18, 19, 20, maybe 23 or 4, very young, yet with strong faith. And they are reminding each other, you know, they came to the cave just because they did not know what, they did not want to worship other than Allah. Some people, some narration says that they were actually from very rich families, but they left everything. They left everything. They came, and that cave was more beloved to them than all the life that they left behind. This same thing is true with us. Really is some of us may be dissatisfied with the life that we have. We think we want more. We strive very hard. We work very hard to have better home, bigger house, bigger car, better everything. And at the end, we find that it did not bring you what you really wanted. Just, this reminds me of my own story, that when my kids were very young, I was a single mother, and I tried very, very hard to work. I never left the home and left the kids with anyone. And for a while, they went to public school, and then when they were very young, I even homeschooled them. But my aim was I wanted to have enough funds so that they could go to university, they could go have a good life, and I just put so much burden on myself so that they could have a good future. The casualty with that is when the mother is active with other than motherhood. It really takes away from the bond between the children and the mother. And I'm not saying that no mother should work, but I'm saying that if there's a possibility not to, it's better not to and have a lot less. So what happened at the end? They grow up, they go on their own, and they just, all that I had hoped for, it just went out the window. They were not interested in Islam. They homeschooling, everything that I did. The society is like it's like dropping a leaf in a river and then trying to have the leaf swim the opposite way. It doesn't work. For me, it was a point where I saw no reason to stay in the United States. I had a comfortable life, everything was okay, but there was no reason to stay. I had to leave and to be in the land of Muslims. That I made migration, hijrah to Egypt. And that for me was the ultimate. I was going to stay there. 7.5 years I stayed there, and imagine that it was incredible how to be with the Muslims and away from kufr and shirk and everything else I ran away from. And then there, the situation got politically very unstable. Foreigners could not really stay there safely. They could not. The government was really not good. So I had to move, and my next migration was to Malaysia, where I am at now. SubhanAllah, I never imagined Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would put me in a place where I could not ask for more. You can see this masjid, which hand, this masjid, I'm using the wrong hand, the masjid that you see behind me right there, this Masjid Al-Hana. I can see it right from my living room, and I hear the adhan. I can walk to the mosque. I am not boasting that I have a comfortable life. I'm only saying that my intention of leaving United States, and there I had a comfortable life. You know, I had everything that I wanted to, but without Islam, without Muslims, without family that cared about Islam. And I wanted to, the only way I could strengthen my faith is I'm still I'm still growing. I'm growing Muslim like all of us. None of us can say I reached the end. I don't need to grow anymore. I'm strong. So subhanAllah, I came, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala miraculously brought me to this property where I was able to buy a unit. And you can see behind me the beautiful view, but more than anything else, you know, when I first came here with my son to check out Malaysia, then check out this island. This is island of Langkawi. I was still making istikhara. I was still wondering. My son was going to move with me, which he decided not to later. And I sat in a balcony, one of the units I was renting shortly for a short while. I was sitting down, and then I heard the adhan right from the masjid that I just showed you. I heard the adhan, and I looked around. I looked at the rainforest. I looked at the sea. I looked at this population here is about 95% Muslim. Immediately, like my heart says, this is it. This is my home. This is a place I want to be. It took a while for me to arrange everything, but somehow I relate to this Ashab al Kahf, although it's not exactly the same. They ran away from disbelief, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them protection and ultimately gave him Jannah. That would be everlasting Jannah. They would stay there forever. So for us, for all of us, anytime we're complaining about our situation, this is just a temporary situation in this dunya. But if we really make our intention wanting to be close with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, strengthen our faith, it's either Allah is going to give us better situation than we're at the present time in this dunya, or would give us much, much better than that in the akhirah. So let us take lessons from these young men and see what they all went through. And then even in the fear and fatigue and everything they had to go through, they come as soon as they are in the Kahf, you know, just giving hope to each other that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to guide them and give them ease and a better situation.
And had you been present, you would see the sun when it rose, inclining away from their cave on the right, and when it set, passing away from them on the left, while they were laying within an open space thereof. That was from the signs of Allah. He whom Allah guides is the rightly guided, but he whom he leaves astray, never will you find for him a protecting guide.
SubhanAllah, it is how much more clear we can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the believers. He put them in the cave, let them fall asleep in a situation where everything was perfect for them. You can see the sun when it starts coming up, it is on the cave on the right side. And when it became sunset, it was on their left side, on their left side. Imagine if they were in the wrong position and the sun shined on them, their body, they would basically, their skin would not handle it. You're talking about 300 years. It could not have better, they could not have a better position that they were in the way they were in. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in the middle of it says, Man yahdillahu fahuwa al-muhtad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that they were guided. Because they were guided, Allah is taking care of them. And whoever goes astray, they don't have any protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And you would think them awake while they were asleep. And we turned them to the right and to the left, while their dog stretched his forelegs at the entrance. If you had looked at them, you would have been turned from them in flight and been filled by them with terror.
SubhanAllah. This reminds me of a serials that I saw about Ashab al Kahf. It was in, the Iranian movie makers are excellent at making serials from Quran stories. They made a serial about Nabi Yusuf and had like 45 episodes. And of course, there's only a few pages about Surah Yusuf, and they had to stretch it on making that story. But the interesting was that every single episode had something to learn, especially for the youth. It was so interesting that I watched it in Farsi, I watched it in Arabic, I watched it in Arabic and English a few times, because I don't watch movies. I don't like to poison my system watching something that it's not proper. So this was really good. And then they made one about Ashab al Kahf, and when they came to this ayah, some of the people that discovered them, that's not according to the Quran, that's before they woke up actually, discovered them, they would go into the cave and they would run screaming from the fear. Because here as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, you think they are awake because their eyes were open, and but they were asleep. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we turn them towards the left, right and the left, and their dog, the dog was at the front of the cave with the stretched out arms. And if you look at them, if you saw them, you would run from them, from the fear.
And similarly, we awakened them that they might question one another. Said a speaker from among them, How long have you remained here? They said, We have remained a day or part of a day. They said, Your Lord is most knowing of how long you remained. So send one of you with this silver coin of yours to the city, and let him look to which is the best of food, and bring you provision from it, and let him be cautious, and let no one be aware of you.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is an interesting word, ba'athnahum. Ba'ath, actually, this word is used for bringing the death to life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here did not say, I woke them up. Ba'athnahum, that raised them, raising from the deep sleep, but it's like raising from the death. 300 years is like they were in a way, Allah let them have a death that was not permanent. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He raised them. So they were asking each other, one of them said, how long have you stayed? Some of them said a day or part of a day. By the way, we see this also in the Day of Judgment when some of the people ask each other in the Day of Judgment, how long did you live on earth? Some say a day, some say part of a day. It's like the life in this world seems so short, that when they ask each other, they don't have the memory because the time element after we leave this world, it's not the same. They don't have the memory of it. Even if somebody lived 80, 90, 100 years, 150 years, even to that person, it looked like it was just like blinking of an eye. So they had no idea about that. So the interesting thing is that their faith is still with them because they know it is Allah. Only Allah knows how long you stay there. So one of them said, just one of you get up and take your silver coin and go into the city and see what you can find in the azka ta'aman, that means purest food. Again, just remember, these people have slept for 300 years. First thing they think when they think about food is halal food. Why? Because their mind was still with them. They knew the people of their town, they would sacrifice to the idols and then they eat the food. This is haram food. They would never touch that. So they wanted to make sure the food that this person brings in is halal. It is not sacrificed to an idol. And he said, be careful, so that nobody would notice you. This is interesting how the next one will explain why.
Indeed, if they come to know of you, they will stone you or return you to their religion, and never would you succeed then, ever.
So this is very interesting that they're, of course, remembering that if they go there, they may still get arrested and they either they're going to stone them to death, or they would make them return to that religion that they run away from, in which case that's a big loss. So what happens is one of them goes into town and then he looks and this town is not the same. Nothing is the same. People dress differently, they talk differently, the stores are not the same, stores are not there. And he tries to buy with the silver coin. Nobody accepts what he has. And then he's looking around and some people notice, this is again, this is not a 100% exactly what happened, but these are different narrations. And this, what I'm saying to you, is a narration from the Christian side, because we don't have the exact thing. All we know is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what we need to know, what we need to learn. But the details of it, we just have for various different narrations that people say this is what happened. So, and it's not unlikely that this may be true, that he goes around and asks around, and then people started looking at the coin. They said, well, this guy has a treasure because this is silver coin. It's probably worth a lot of money. And they ask him, where did you get this? Then he tells his story, and they take him to the bishop, the Christian, I guess their leader. And when he tells them the story, this man says, yes, this is incredible. This is a miracle. We have to go see all of them. So a crowd of people gather together and they go to the cave. And when they see them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets all of these young men die. This one was a permanent death. So they were not to be mixed with the public, where they were not to be coming back to a normal life, to live. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there he had a wisdom why he kept them there for 300 years, and why he allowed them to die when they were discovered, basically. And what happens next is very interesting, very interesting. I would like to talk about it in the next video, inshallah. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.